Ozarks native John Wilkinson enjoyed an opportunity many people might dream of, being a member of Elvis Presley's band and performing throughout the world. John performed with Elvis as his guitar player during the last 10 years of Elvis' life and developed a treasured and enduring friendship with him. He has some very special memories that he shares in our program. Ozarks Public Television and Missouri State University are proud to present Ozarks Watch Video Magazine, a locally produced program committed to increasing the understanding of the richness and complexity of Ozarks culture. Visit our website for more information. And welcome to this edition of Ozarks Watch. I'm Dale Moore, and we're glad you're with us here today. You know, if you were to ask anyone on the planet to name the #1 all-time recording artist, they would very likely say Elvis Presley. And I've got a special guest on Ozarks Watch today that knows a whole lot about Elvis Presley, and I'm pleased to welcome to the Ozarks Watch program John Wilkinson. John, good to have you here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here.
Well, I'll tell you what, not many people can say that they've known the King, but you certainly did.
For the last 9.5 years of his life, I worked with the man.
You know, before we get into talking about your life with Elvis Presley, I think it's interesting to note that you're actually a native of Springfield.
I was raised in Springfield, yes. I was born in Washington, D.C., but from 1946 until present time, I was raised in Springfield.
Now, you attended grade school here, didn't you?
Greenwood, straight through, kindergarten through 12th.
And you've got other connections with Missouri State University. I think your dad was a professor.
My daddy was a professor of psychology. In fact, he started the psychology department at when SMS, or MSU, excuse me, was known then, I think, as Teachers College.
Yeah.
Something like that, and that was in 1939.
Wow.
And Daddy started the whole psychology department.
So how long were you in Springfield before you went on to...
When I was 18, after I graduated from high school, I thought maybe I'd go to college, and I did go to college, and I found out the reason to go to college for me was to find out I didn't belong there. So I went down to the University of Arkansas and took up space for about a year.
Yeah. How did you become interested in music? And because there's a lot leading up to your life with Elvis. How did you get in the music business? And
well,
how were you drawn to it?
I was surrounded by music here in Springfield, of course. Everybody knows it was a hub for country music and gospel music.
Right.
And I was basically raised around that. It was always on the radio. And my mother and father loved music. They loved everything from the Kingston Trio on to Bach and Beethoven.
Yeah.
And opera even.
Yeah.
That's not my favorite, but there was always music in the house. And Daddy was a singer in the church choir at First and Calvary for many years, and then later on at Christ Episcopal.
Yeah.
And so there was always music.
Yeah.
And I think maybe it was born into me too, because I'd hear a song on the old radio station KICK, if you remember that.
Oh, sure.
And I'd hear a song, and I'd go down and get on the piano, and I'd try to play the melody.
Right.
Because I could hear everything. Everything I ever learned to do was by ear.
Yeah.
And I'd play that melody, and then I'd find the chords, and I guess music just overtook me, really.
Who were the early influences on you as far as musicians?
I'd say Chet Atkins, Les Paul, many of the old pickers like Speedy Hayworth from the KWTO days out of the 1121 building out there.
You bet.
And Johnny Cash, a lot of the fellows from the Sun recording studios.
Right.
The Jordanaires, you know who they are, of course.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And many of the gospel groups I would hear. My grandmother, my mother's mother, used to take me sometimes to where gospel music was being played live. And I just fell in love with the harmonies and all that. So all of that just...
A lot of different influences.
Yes.
Now, you know, I know guitar was and is your
That's my
primary
instrument.
Yeah. You mentioned piano. Did you play any other instruments?
Banjo. I started playing guitar when I was 5 years old, and three-finger bluegrass banjo when I was 6. So I knew something about it.
And you picked up finger picking pretty good too.
Yeah.
That's quite a skill.
Well, yeah, I guess it is. It's but I'd listen to Lester Flatt and Earl Scruggs, of course. Earl can't be touched.
Yeah.
And I'd listen to him play, and some of the other banjo pickers around town, Mike Bride and some of them.
Oh, yeah.
And you know Mike?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's now called Arkansas Red, I believe.
Yep, you know some pickers.
Oh, yes, I sure do. And I'd watch them.
Yeah.
And then I'd go home and pick up my little instruments and see if, well, I think he did this.
Yeah.
And see if I could duplicate what they were playing.
When was the first time you saw Elvis?
The very first time.
On TV, I guess?
On TV.
Like everybody else?
Yeah, yeah. I remember he, when he was first on the Louisiana Hayride, they had some film, very, very short film clips shown on the local TV station. I don't know what that even was then, KTTS maybe.
Yeah.
But they'd show this guy jiggling around and beating on this guitar and singing, and I thought at the time, man, that looks like he's having an awful lot of fun. I'll bet he's getting paid to do it too.
Yeah.
And he was.
Yeah.
And my mother and father saw him too, bless their hearts. They didn't think actually that he was probably a very good role model for an impressionable.
I don't think most parents did.
Yeah, they didn't think he was really bad,
Yeah.
but they thought, you know, they were along the lines of maybe Perry Como would be somebody
Right.
better to follow after.
Right. Catch a Falling Star.
Yes, hot diggity dog diggity.
So you saw him on TV about 56, and then
Yeah,
it wasn't long
55.
after that you actually got to see him perform.
Well, I saw him. What happened actually was after watching him on these small clips that you see on TV here in Springfield, I watched him, and being a guitar player, even as young as I was, he had a beautiful Martin D18 guitar. And a Martin guitar, for those of y'all who are guitar players who know what they
That's
are.
guitar.
Yeah, Martin is just about the top of the line as far as a steel string acoustic guitar. And it still is, as far as I'm concerned. But he was beating on it. You know, he didn't have a drummer at the time. It was just Scotty Moore on guitar and Bill Black on bass. And he was beating on this guitar. He wasn't playing it. And I thought at the time, honest to goodness, I thought this, you won't want to treat a guitar like that way, you know? And it bothered me enough, Dale, that I said, I made a promise to myself. One day I'm going to meet this kid and I'm going to tell him that he can't play guitar.
And you did.
And I did.
Tell us that story. This is a great story.
Well, my mom and dad took a Saturday afternoon, decided they were going to go down to the river. We had a little cabin down on the Finley River. They were going to go down to the river that afternoon and leave me home, which was not probably a good idea to leave a 9-year-old kid, but I could have gone if I wanted. But anyway, I had heard on our famous KICK that Elvis was coming to town. Now, you got to remember, this was at a time when he really wasn't real well known. He was making some noise in the South and in the Midwest.
Right.
And at that time, he was second billed to old Hank Snow. You remember Hank, of course?
Oh, yeah.
And having Elvis Presley second billed to Hank Snow, that's a heck of a program, isn't it?
Yeah. I've been everywhere, man.
Yeah, really. And, I decided that, well, they said on the radio, now they're doing a dress rehearsal this afternoon, sound checks, y'all can't go to that. But we're giving away 4 tickets or something for the 13th caller or whatever it was, I don't remember. And they'll be at the Shrine Mosque, as you know. Well, my dad and I, he was in the Kiwanis, and at that time there was the old Kiwanis Minstrels. And my daddy and I had sung a song on the Kiwanis Minstrels one time, so I knew where the dressing rooms were and all that. Now, Mom and Dad are down at the river. Little Johnny's at home cooking up a plot. I got on my bicycle and I rode all the way from our house down to the Shrine Mosque, parked behind there, went up the stairs to where the dressing rooms are up on the 2nd floor there.
No security at the back door.
Nope, there wasn't anybody.
Yeah.
And here I'm just a 9-year-old kid, and I've got this thing in my head. I'm going to find this kid. I'm going to find him. You know, at that time people thought, well, he's just a long-haired, greasy-haired, motorcycle rider.
Yeah.
So I'm walking down the hallway, and I'm looking to the right and I'm looking to the left in these dressing rooms.
Yeah.
No Elvis. Until I get to the very last dressing room on the left, and there he is. He's kicked back in a chair with his feet up on the dressing room table, and he's got a stack of burgers on this side, and he's got a 6-pack of colas. I don't want to use a brand name because I get in a lot of trouble, won't I? Some sort of colas over here. I know a little bit about this.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I looked and tapped on the door. He looked up and I said, "You're Elvis Presley." He said, "I know." I thought, oh man, he is going to be one of these smart mouth kids, you know. He's going to be everything people think he is. But he wasn't. He stood up. He said, come on in. He shook my hand. He said, have a seat there. Asked me my name. I said, I'm Sean Wilkinson. He asked all about me. You live here in this town? Yes, sir. What's your mom and dad do? Do you go to school? All this. He was very interested. And in the course of conversation, we just talked for about 5 minutes, I guess. And there was a beautiful old Gibson J45 acoustic guitar leaned up against the dressing room wall. And I said, Elvis, do you mind if I borrow your guitar for a minute? He said, no, why? I said, well, Elvis, the real reason I'm here, I was looking for you, is to tell you that you can't play guitar worth a damn. I know this is a family show, but those are my words.
How did he react?
Well, he got that, what I come to know later is that mischievous grin that you know he's up to something. Yeah. Looked at me like, right, kid. And how old are you, Johnny? I'm 9. Oh, I'm 19. Yeah, well. So he said, yeah, go ahead. So I whipped out a set of finger picks I always was carrying with me. And I did a little Foggy Mountain Breakdown, a little banjo thing on the guitar. Then I sang him a couple of songs. And after I finished, I put his guitar back. He said, you're pretty good. And I said, I know. That was getting even for that opening shot.
Who was cocky here, yeah.
Yeah, I'll get you. And we talked some more, and pretty soon I heard, it sounded like a herd of buffalo coming down the hallway. Two of the biggest guys I ever saw in my life stuck their heads in there and said, Elvis, who are you? I said, I'm John Wilkinson. It's okay, you know. And they said, Elvis, you can't be talking to people. You got to be thinking about your sound check. You got to get out of here, kid. I'm going. Don't get excited, fellas. I'm leaving.
Was Colonel Tom with him at this point?
No.
Okay, this was before Colonel
This
Tom.
was, yeah.
Now, in '56, would he have been already recording with Sun Records down in?
Yes, he already had Hound Dog.
Okay.
Out.
So
anyway, I got up to leave, and got up out of my chair, and he shook my hand, and I turned to go to the door, and as I was just out the door almost, he said, Johnny, come back here a minute. So I come back, and he gave me a big hug, and he shook my hand again. He said, from the bottom of my heart, Johnny, he said, I just know one day we're going to meet again.
Wow.
And I said, tell you what, Elvis, I hope we do. I certainly hope we do. And went down and got on my bicycle and rode home. And all the way home, I thought, you know, that kid don't have anybody to play with.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
He just doesn't have anybody to play with.
When he said that, I mean, of course you were a 9-year-old kid, but did it occur to you that, you know, that just might happen someday?
No, it really didn't, because I was a folk picker.
Yeah.
I thought maybe I'd wind up in a folk trio or something like the Weavers.
Right.
Or something like that. I didn't think I'd ever wind up playing rock and roll.
Yeah, right. We'll get back, because this career piece is back together again, but I know that in between that time and when you hooked up with Elvis, that you did have a music career. And
I did.
You did have, you had a group, and the group's name was?
The Coachmen.
Right. Tell us about that group.
All right. This was when we were in Greenwood High School, the old building.
Right. Yeah.
Still standing.
Yeah.
3 boys in the class above me, Hadley Whitlock, Bill Johnson, and Tom O'Brien, had formed a trio together, and they were copying the Kingston Trio, and they let me come and listen to them rehearse, and I brought a guitar one day and was playing along with them and singing. They decided to add me to the group. So they didn't really have a name at that time. I said, how about the Coachmen? Because that was the song they'd lead off with, the Kingston Trio's song called 3 Jolly Coachmen. So we changed the song to 4 Jolly Coachmen. And we just had a wonderful time. We played for a lot of school assemblies. We played around town at some pizza parlors, and we played a lot of garden parties and that kind of thing. And Mr. Wilfred Adler, did you ever know Will Adler?
I know the name.
Okay, music professor at SMS.
Yes, know the name. Remember the name.
Sadly, he's gone now. He's a real close friend of my family's.
Yeah.
And he hired us to play for some of his classes.
Yeah.
Just to show his classes what you can do when you're young and if you're really willing to work at it.
Yeah. Now, did you spend some time playing with the Kingston? You mentioned Kingston
I
Trio.
did.
You played with the trio.
Yeah, I did. In fact, after I left the University of Arkansas on my own power, what they were ready to throw me out. When I got out to California, I developed a pretty good relationship with the studios out there as a studio musician. And I got calls from all kinds of people the Chad Mitchell Trio and the Kingston Trio had seen me, and they called when one of their boys would get sick. They needed somebody to fill in. Well, then they'd call me.
Yeah.
And so I worked with them off and on for a period of, I guess all told, 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. Did you do a lot of songwriting with the Coachman and/or with the trio?
No, I'm not a writer. I'm a good interpretation man, but I'm not a writer.
You don't do that, actually,
no, I wish I could.
Yeah, that's quite an art.
Well, yeah, it's a wonderful thing, and it's quite lucrative.
Yeah, yes, it is.
You know.
Yeah, it is.
But I'm not a writer.
So how long then total did you play with the Coachman and/or the trio? About I'm trying to get us up to where we shift into moving into Elvis's band. So how many years were you on doing that piece of work?
Well, when I played with the trio and the Chad Mitchell Trio, where I was just the sideman, guitar and banjo for them, the last gig I did with the Kingston Trio was in 1975, September of 1975. It'd be hard to say, but from, let's see, from 1964 till about 1970. Well, I did some work with the boys. Sometimes when Elvis would take a rest break, and I would work with them, and with some other friends of mine.
Okay.
So,
and then you had what most musicians would probably describe as a life-changing moment, experience when you had a chance to go to work with the King.
That's right.
How did that opportunity present itself?
Elvis had seen me on local Los Angeles television. There was a DJ there by the name of Robert W. Morgan.
Yeah.
Very, very famous DJ.
Good Morgan, good Morgan, good Morgan.
You got him.
You betcha.
And he's sadly gone now, too.
Yes, he is.
The real Don Steele.
Yeah.
And all them.
Oh, man.
Dynamite Don.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
You go back a ways, too.
Yes, we do.
That's
KHJ,
wonderful.
Yeah,
That's
Los
good.
Angeles, you bet.
So anyway, Elvis used to watch this local dance show that Robert W. Morgan hosted called The Groovy Show. And Robert would have me on to sing one of the latest hits like Galveston or something like that, or The Windows of Your Mind, or Windmills of Your Mind, whatever it was. And Elvis saw me, and he mentioned to his road manager, Joe Esposito, because Joe told me this later, he said, I think that's the kid that I saw in Springfield, Missouri.
Really?
Yeah.
Elvis said that?
Yeah. And then in about 1964, beginning of 65, I guess, I was playing at the old Whiskey A Go-Go on Sunset Boulevard there.
Johnny Rivers.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, yeah.
The live album there.
Oh, yeah.
And my guys had already gotten there, and I was walking through the front door of the Whiskey, and I looked inside. Of course, it's dark, as all nightclubs are. But I noticed right out on the right-hand side of the stage, there was a bunch of tables roped off with candles on them. That's not unusual. Somebody wanted to come and see the Jefferson Airplane that night.
Yeah.
Okay. So I go change my clothes. We get up and we do our show to open up for the Jefferson Airplane. And seemed like it went off real well, and got back down to my dressing room. And I was putting on my street duds. And in the mirror, I could see this huge form fill my dressing room door. I thought, uh-oh, I've really made somebody mad, or somebody's upset about something. I turned around. A man I come to know later, they called him Chief. He was a big Native American who was one of Elvis's bodyguards at the time. And this man said, there's a man what wants to see you right now. And I'm thinking, I'm dead. I don't know what I've done, but so I said, well, can I just get dressed? Yeah, go ahead, and I'll take my guitar out of the car and I'll be with you. I'll take care of that for you. So he takes my guitar, and he comes back, and he doesn't have the guitar. He said he put it in my car. And so he said, come with me. So I follow him out there, and there's Elvis. He's sitting at one of these roped-off tables. And he looked up and he said, hi, Johnny. Hi, Elvis. He said, you're the kid, aren't you, that told me I couldn't play guitar worth a damn back way back in 1956 or 54 or 55 something? I said, yeah, that's me. He said, I got news for you. I still can't. I thought that was pretty good.
That's great.
What
a great line.
And he said, what are you doing tonight? I said, nothing. I'm going home, I guess. He said, no. He said, why don't you give your car keys to Charlie, one of his buddies, and come with me. We're going up to the house, and we're going listen to gospel music and pick and sing. I'll have somebody throw some burgers and stuff on the grill, and we'll just have ourselves a time. What do you say? I said, fine. I said, give my car keys to Charlie. How am I going to get there? He said, you'll ride with me. That's when I also learned that he was the world's worst driver. God, terrible driver. So I went up there, and I guess it was around 5:30 or 6 the next morning when he said, well, I guess I'm ready to go to bed now. And everybody left, and then before I left, he said, you know what, Johnny? He said, one of these days I'm going to quit doing these stupid movies that the Colonel's got me doing. He said, I'm going to put a band together, and I'm going to go out on the road, and I'm going to get on stage and sing again. That's what my fans want me to do, and that's what I want to do. I said, I hope you do it. I'd love to see that happen again. So then that was about 64 or early 65. I didn't hear from him or see him again until 1968, about mid-1968. And phone rings, and you have to understand, all my buddies know that I'm an Elvis fan, always was, still am. And sometimes they call me and try to sound like Elvis and try to throw me off. So I pick up the phone, hello, Johnny, this is Elvis. Yeah, right, click, and I hung up. Then I thought, boy, that was an awfully good impersonation. You don't suppose, do you? Right just about when I was thinking that, the phone rings again. Hello? Don't hang up on me, Johnny, this is Elvis. I'm sorry, sir. And I explained to him what the deal was. He said, listen, you remember I told you I was putting a band together? I was going to put a band together? He said, yeah. He said, well, I've got it all put together, except I have one open spot. I need a good rhythm guitar player and a finger picker. And I know you can do it. Will you take the job? I want you. I said, my God, yes, I'd love to do that. That'd be a dream come true for me. Sure, I'll take it. He said, well, come on up here. I want to talk to you about it. I said, I don't know where you live anymore. He said, I'll send somebody for you. I said, okay. Hung up. I got my guitar ready, and about 20 minutes later, there was a big, long, black Cadillac limousine pulled up in my driveway, and a couple of fellows got out and knocked on the door. You're Johnny, aren't you? Yes, sir, I am. Come on, we're taking you up to Elvis's house. Okay. So I go up there, and he was talking about his plans, about what he wanted to do, and he said, and I'll tell you what, Johnny, he said, I'll pay you X amount of dollars, and all I ask is that you be on time, that you be loyal, and that you do your job the very best way you know how. Can you do that? I said, absolutely.
He was a good boss.
Oh, he was a wonderful boss.
Yeah.
Wonderful boss. He was a terrific fella.
Time's getting away from us, and I don't want to.
I'm sorry.
No. I could do this for hours, and I don't want to get away without asking about the TCB. And I see a necklace there, and
my TCB necklace.
Tell us. It's got to be a great story.
Well, Elvis had this motto: taking care of business. And when he did something, he wanted it done immediately and do it right. So on August 9th, 1969, when we opened up the new International Hotel after Barbra Streisand, we let her work out the bugs. She didn't like that very much, but too bad, Babs. Anyway, he had given these other fellows a TCB necklace, and he took one out of a really nice jewelry case and put it on my neck. He said, you see this, Johnny? I said, yeah. He said, that's TCB is for taking care of business, and the lightning bolt means in a flash. That's how I like to do things. I said, you got it. He said, can you live with that? I said, yes, sir. I surely can.
One of the last performances I think that Elvis had before he passed away was here in Springfield.
Yes.
Did you play that show?
Yes, I was there. I was on everything he did from 1968 through the time of that horrible day, August 16th, 1977.
Yeah.
All the recordings, all the stage shows.
Yeah. Just real quickly, what's your favorite way to think of Elvis that's special to you?
Well, besides my own late father, he was probably the most compassionate, generous, loving human being I've ever met. He genuinely cared for his fans. He really cared about what he was doing, and he wanted to see people happy.
Yeah.
He was a genuinely good man, and I would tell you and our viewers and anybody else who might be listening, this was a decent, very decent, good man.
Yeah.
He had his problems like anybody else, and the reason for that is he was what? Human.
Human being. Yeah.
But unfortunately, the spotlight was always on him, so,
yeah.
Anytime something went wrong, you know.
Now, in the very little time we have remaining, you're still performing, aren't you? I mean, don't you appear with a reunion tour band?
Yes, I get invited about 3 or 4 times a year over to Europe to perform and talk to the fans in Europe at their Elvis Presley conventions. And while I can't play my guitars and banjos anymore, I can still sing.
Yeah.
I've got 3 really good bands over in Europe that work for me, and I don't do an Elvis act. I take the songs that you probably wouldn't even remember hearing, B-sides. I do a lot of the ballads. And the fans look at me as one of their last living contacts between them and their dead idol.
I was just going to say that.
You know, and some of those meetings, when they've got the other members of the TCB band there, I get to have them play behind me.
Yeah, that's neat.
So we're still all friends.
That's great. Still keep in touch.
The whole thing, we were a big family.
Yeah. Well, that's obvious. I mean, you can kind of sense that. Well, John, I feel like everybody knows Elvis a whole lot better than they did, and they knew him a lot. But through your eyes, I think now this has been great to visit about the King and hear about you and your experiences.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us on the program today.
Appreciate it. It's a wonderful thing you do here.
We appreciate it. Thank you, John Wilkinson.
You're welcome.
We'll be right back with the final word on Ozarks Watch. You stay tuned. Episodes of Ozarks Watch Video Magazine are available in area libraries. Please visit our webpage for a complete list of these locations and for titles and descriptions of our shows. I want to thank John Wilkinson for being my guest. Join us again next time for more Ozarks Watch Video Magazine.